The Vietnam War and the push for US involvement was a result of the Gulf of Tonkin incident. A lie. The Iraq War famously is a result of lies. Wars in Somalia are a result of lies. The Second World War and the German invasion of Poland was a result of carefully constructed lies. That is war by media. Let us ask ourselves, of the complicit media, which is the majority of the mainstream press, what is the average death count attributed to each journalist?
Julian Assange at a anti-war speech in London from 2010 at the very top, and of course Anton Karas from The Third Man. I'm Randy Credico live on the fly, 99.5 FM in New York City, WBAI.org. We are continuing our focus on Julian Assange as we have for the last 2 months, it seems like, here on WBAI. We are in our 5th year doing the Assange series, and only on BAI are you going to hear programming like this. There's no place else in the country where you're going to hear programming focused on the most important case in the world right now in terms of journalism. This is and you know, I had Craig Murray on the other day, and we were prematurely jubilant that Julian would be out. We were very excited, and he was drinking champagne, and I was like very happy, and so were a lot of people, including my guest today, who I have not had on BAI in the last 5 years, ever, but I had her on my Assange show at Assange Countdown to Freedom way back after the first half of the extradition hearing at Belmarsh. Her name is Angela Richter. Angela Richter, I met in New York. She's friends with Margaret Ratner Kunstler. She is a theater director and an author, and she's featured in the book In Defense of Assange. You can read it. She's a personal friend of Julian Assange. She's known him for a long time, and she's the person who I wanted to hear from today after the sad news where the judge would not release him on bail. It really was a shocker. And so, Angela, I suppose you went through the ups and downs like I did today from Monday.
Absolutely. And just to refer to what you said before, I think we did, in fact, deserve after all these years to be a little bit happy on Monday, I think, and just give the joy room. But even on the next day, when I looked at the verdict, I was a little bit shocked when I looked at it closely, because she actually gave the US prosecutors right in every point of the accusation against Julian. And this is not only, I mean, it was a win for Julian on Monday, but still it was a fail for press freedom. So, and not only that, it occurred to me later that I thought, if they going to appeal and the US can confirm that they will give him good prison conditions, you know, and promise to keep him from suicide. I mean, even today, the prosecutor mentioned that it is impossible to kill himself in a US prison. It made me laugh, although it's sad. So I think if the next judge believes these arguments, there is nothing in the way of extraditing him to the US, you know, because the judge confirming all the political accusations against Assange. So anyway, But today was really, really horrible. I was watching it live via the video link in court because I'm reporting for 2 German newspapers about it. So yeah, I was very, very disappointed because I think that the judge actually contradicted herself, because she kind of, her verdict was a humanitarian one. She said that she's worried he might kill himself, and yet today she contradicted herself while keeping him in a HIMAX or in a high security prison in Belmarsh. So yeah, it was really a big downer, and yeah, we have to digest that.
Well, let's go into that decision on Monday a little bit. You know, I didn't. It was 140 pages, I think, and all I did was get the news that it was denied. The extradition request was denied. That's what I looked at. That's what I celebrated on, and really didn't get into it. You said that basically she agreed with everything that the prosecution had laid out.
Absolutely. Right? And even with the worst point, because that was something that I was hoping for up front when I was thinking that she might give them right, but I was hoping for a split decision, that she would at least deny the Espionage Act accusation, you know. So, because this is the worst one for Julian as well as for press freedom. And she didn't. Even she agreed and accepted even the Espionage Act prosecution of a journalist. And this is something which is really horrible. So in a way, the gift that she gave us on Monday is a toxic one.
What do you think her motivation was? Is she trying, like they say, split the baby? She's trying to please some people, and definitely please the U.S., please the prosecutors, and then mollify those who are concerned about Julian by not agreeing with the extradition, but keeping him in jail. So what is she, like, giving something out to everybody and nobody satisfied?
Yes, it seems like that. And as I said, it's really dangerous that she agreed on every point. So if they are going to appeal to a higher court, this is really a bad situation to start with, you know, because she agreed on everything. So technically, she only took the humanitarian reasons, so she's out of the picture now, you know. Like you said, she gave everyone a little bit of it. On the other hand, I even think that she did, if the administration of Biden decides to still prosecute him, they will have a good start with the proposition that she gave them for the appeal, because she agreed on every point of the accusation, even the most ridiculous things. And not only she agreed with the accusation, but she also contradicted the defense when they pointed out that his rights, his human and citizen rights, were in jeopardy when the US was spying on the embassy, you know, and violating his rights and his rights to speak alone with his lawyers and so on. They were recording all of that. This is proven at the moment. And she didn't take this into account, you know. So she rejected everything. And so it's for me, yesterday I was looking very precisely into the verdict, because I got it all by email from a friend who's a lawyer, and so I was able to take a precise look, and actually it's a catastrophe. I mean, for the appeal.
Yeah. And so what happens next? What is your understanding? It will go, is it going to be on a fast track to the next level, judicial level, or does it take a while? Craig says that they would put it on a fast track. They were planning it in May. What is your understanding?
I think the next step could be quite fast. I heard something that it could be even the appeal could take place in April on the High Court. But besides that, if it goes further, it could still take some years, you know. So we don't know that for sure. even if the first one is in April, it might be followed by 2 other courts, leading even to the European Human Rights Court. We don't know that. And if he's to stay in custody for all that time in Belmarsh, I mean, it's really a horrible thought, you know, and it totally contradicts the humanitarian gesture from Monday, you know, keeping him in this horrible jail. She agreed that he's on the high suicide risk. She even said like that she thinks he's intelligent enough to circumvent all the measures that they take to prevent him from that, and that she thinks he might kill himself besides all of that. So yeah, I don't know, it's really, for me, I don't understand that decision today, and yeah, it's really something to be desperate about. There is something I just wanted to point out, because knowing that Joe Biden is the first Catholic president after Kennedy, it's interesting. There was one detail that she read out in her explanation yesterday that said that one of the reasons she believed he might commit suicide is that he was asking for absolution from a Catholic priest in Belmarsh. So I was thinking maybe we should really ask Joe Biden to just leave the prosecution be, because that is the last hope, you know, that is the last resort, because after all, him and Obama decided against the prosecution because of the implications for the press freedom. So maybe it might be a hope that Joe Biden would go back to that stance and just stop the prosecution.
Right. Well, he said something, he called him a high-tech terrorist or something like that way back in 2010, I believe. But you're right, under Eric Holder and the Loretta Lynch, I think her name was, the last 2 prosecutors, they did not, in the end, prosecute him. It took 7 years, and Donald Trump's prosecutors in not DC but in Virginia to actually file the case against Julian Assange. So it was, now we're asking for Trump, who is the one responsible for this right now. They say it was in what you saw and I saw in February was that the defense said that this was a way of Trump getting even with Julian for not doing what he wanted him to do when Rohrabacher went over there. Is that your belief, that we are now going to ask Trump to give him a pardon before he leaves, even though he's the one that instigated this prosecution?
Well, of course, I think it makes sense to still hope for it and ask him for it, but honestly, I personally doubt he will do it, because yeah, Trump is the kind of person that is really looking for his own safety, his own favors, and I think that he might have been very angry, because I just interviewed Jennifer Robinson just before the hearings, and she told me that she was witnessing that meeting with Dana Rohrabacher back then. And she confirmed that just after the meeting, when Julian refused to tell who his source was, that after that they put out the indictment, you know. So it's kind of clear that Trump was really kind of pissed at him, I guess. And also it totally fits in his character. I'm sorry to say that, but it's not very surprising. And so I highly doubt that he might have forgiven him, other than if he would find some reason to aggrandize himself by giving him a pardon. So yeah, I hope he doesn't hear that.
Yeah, well, he's a very mercurial figure, to say the least.
Yeah.
By the way, this is WBAI 99.5 FM in New York City, WBAI.org on the web. I'm Randy Credico, host of Randy Credico Live on the Fly. We are talking with Angela Richter, the famous theater director and author, and she's got a wonderful chapter in the book In Defense of Assange, which was edited by both Margaret Ratner Kunstler and Tariq Ali. And you can get that. I think right here at WBAI, we have books available. Just be a buddy of mine and we'll send you a copy. But getting back, Angela, you've known Julian a long time. People don't know the human side to him, and I've been doing the technical side for the last month. I don't think people really understand the human side of Julian Assange. I want to get back into that as we talked about this before the last time we spoke in February. You really know him. Tell us, the people out there, what kind of person that you know in Julian Assange.
The person that I know is nothing like being reported in the newspapers. You know, he might be a little bit clumsy socially sometimes, you know, but once you get to know him and he really becomes your friend and opens up and gives you his trust, then he really gives you a lot of trust. And he is extremely intelligent. He's very funny, and he is also very empowering. You know, I think I would have never become an author without Julian, because actually that started to happen after I was starting to work with him, because he said like, oh, you are doing a play about me, but you can write it yourself, you know. And so he was constantly encouraging me. And in the meantime, I became a journalist. And I think I never would have achieved that without Julian. He was inspiring, and he was very warm. You know, I only had the best experiences with him, and it was sad and bitter to witness, you know, what was happening to him in all those years in the embassy. And even today, you know, when I was listening, the judge ruling that he won't be let out, you know, because they said, oh, he will again escape the bail, he will do the same thing again. How could he? I mean, after 7 years being in one room, I mean, people are freaking out after a few months of lockdown. So how can they assume that he wouldn't have changed in 7 years after going through this horrible ordeal? Besides, his situation changed totally. He now has a home in London. He has 2 little children and so on. I think he's a wonderful person. That is my experience, and I think he should walk free.
But you've known him for a long time, and you've seen this organized smear job on him. It's been an assassination job by
Yes.
Various powers that be, including the Crown Prosecutor Services, and what they did with this whole Swedish garbage, rubbish. Tell us how did it affect him? You were around him a lot over the last 10 years. How did it affect him, the constant smearing of his character?
Well, it was really draining him, you know. In the very beginning, he described it to me as character assassination. That's why I called my first play about him Assassinate Assange. It was really referring to the assassination that happened in the press, you know. And it was horrible for him. And every time when I came, at some point, even after a few years, he said to me, what can I do, Angela? You are a theater director. What can I do? What should I do to change this image that people have from me, from the press? And you know what? I just said, you should just be yourself, like you are with me, you know? You don't need anything else. But he was just desperate, you know, because he couldn't help it. Everyone believed that, you know? And it's no wonder, because it was such an intense propaganda machine going after him. It's impossible to withstand that, I think.
Every woman I've spoken to, you, Alicia Castro, Margaret Ratner Kunstler, and ad infinitum, they've all said that he is so decent with women. I mean, he treats women. I haven't been around him with a woman around. It was just me and him together. Is that what you experienced? That he was really, really good one-on-one with women and showed incredible interest in what they had to say and what their work was?
Yes, I think so. And one of the main parts of it is that he took me personally, and also all the women around him, very seriously, you know. I mean, this sounds maybe ridiculous, but it's not, because women are not automatically treated equal from males, you know. That is not a normal thing, and he did that. And even he was really encouraging to many. I mean, if you see Renata, Jennifer Robinson, even Stella, his now fiancée, and there were a lot of women around him always, and he was always listening to our advice. He was, always surrounded by women, and he treated everyone, I think, very nicely, fairly, and like equals. What can you ask more from him?
You told, there's a great story that you told in defense of Assange. Could you just give us a recap of how you guys actually met?
Are you referring to the eBay story, or?
Yes, the story that you told, I can't pinpoint it, but there's a great story in there in defense of Assange that you told how you actually met. Do you recall?
Yeah, I can recall it. It's funny because I tried to get to him because I wanted to make that play at that time. It was 2011, and I couldn't get to him because the Swedish allegations were already out. So WikiLeaks was under big pressure, PayPal, Visa blockade, and so on. They were under a lot of stress, but I was at that point also doubting the official narrative. So I really wanted to meet him. But I couldn't do it because there was no way, I asked journalist friends and nobody could do it, So in the end, I realized that they were selling themselves on eBay. Like Julian was selling a lunch with him and Slavoj Žižek, the Slovenian philosopher. So 8 people had the opportunity to have lunch with them and win it on eBay because they desperately needed money, because they were cut off from the donations. So actually I bought him on eBay. I think I was lucky because I did it in the second round. So it cost me, instead of £4,000, only I think 1.5 or something, £1,500. So it was worth it, And that was when we first met. And then I told him at that occasion that I want to do the play and so on. And then but I still didn't believe that he might come back to that, But some months later, someone of WikiLeaks called me, and then I met him one time at I will not tell where, in Soho privately. But at that point, he was still under house arrest. He was wearing this ankle thing and was being monitored, but he was not yet in the embassy. So that was the first time I met him, and the only time I met him not in the embassy.
Wow. That is how was that lunch, by the way? Was that lunch interesting?
Oh, it was a little bit like this Camus play, with all these people trapped in a room, because it was very, very, very weird. And I came there with a T-shirt and jeans because I thought, oh my God, who will be the others? They might be some dorky nerds, But no, when I came there were 5 women and all were in cocktail dresses. So
oh my goodness.
It was most of the 8, it was 5 women and 3 men. And now, I think most of them really wanted to marry him, actually.
Now, did you make that into a play? That sounds
not
like
yet,
a great
but you know what? I will tell you a secret. No, okay, everybody will know it, but I was the only person to record that. I have the recording still, and one day I will take it out. I was never using it because I didn't want to use it against the will of Julian, but he himself allowed me to record it because I asked him at that occasion, okay, do you have something to hide? And he couldn't say no, as someone who is for total transparency. And finally, Laura Poitras was there too, and she was only allowed to record 20 minutes, but I recorded the whole thing.
Wow. I can't wait to see that when I go to Berlin. Whenever this
really
pandemic is over.
It was such a weird meeting.
Yeah, give us first of all, tell us how people can contact you. I know you are on Twitter, you are on YouTube. How do people access your work and your videos that you do? I know you interviewed Daniel Ellsberg recently. How do people access that?
Yes, the best opportunity to see all the interviews and stuff is on DMTV. It's DMTV. DiEM25 is the Democracy in Europe movement founded by the philosopher Srećko Horvat together with Yanis Varoufakis, the former finance minister of Greece. So they have this beautiful movement, and where many good people are also in. It's like Renata Avila is also a member and so on. And on their everyone can Google that on YouTube or watch it on YouTube directly, because they have their channel there, and there they can find all my interviews.
Well, that's great. Any last words on the subject of Julian Assange? Give us a closing, argument.
Yes. I have something. I have one of my favorites quotes of him when he was really this dorky guy at the CCC Congress. At some point, he said it very clumsily, but it was so sweet. He said, like, justice cannot just happen. Justice is forced by people coming together and exercising unity, strength, and intelligence.
Wow. Well, I'm not going to try to follow that. We've been talking to Angela Richter. I'm Randy Credico live on the fly here on 99.5 FM in New York City, WBAI, WBAI.org. Please support the station. We're going to go out with a little Lotta Lenya here and Kurt Vile. We're going to go out with that. And Dankeschön for doing the show.
Bitte schön, auf Wiedersehen.
Bye. Talk to you next week, folks.
Und der Haifisch, der hat Zähne und die trägt er im Gesicht. Und McKeith, der hat ein Messer, doch das Messer sieht man nicht. An dem schönen blauen Sonntag liegt ein toter Mann am Strand und ein Mensch geht um die Ecke, den man Mackie Messer nennt. Und Schmulmeier bleibt verschwunden und so mancher reiche Mann und sein Geld hat Mackie Messer, den man nichts beweisen kann.